I know. This is a VR fitness channel. So for those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome to FitPro VR, where I give you a no BS approach to virtual reality fitness, games, and applications. Now, this video is about language learning. Why? Why am I talking about language learning on a fitness channel? Well, I'll tell you why. See, currently I'm learning Mandarin Chinese. And how I do this is through a program called Yoyo Chinese, where I watch videos and practice speaking on my computer with Ultra Bay #1, Yang Yang. Now, I've been doing this for a little over a month and a half, and I'm currently at the level where I can order the wrong food at a Chinese restaurant, have an anxiety attack when somebody's speaking to me super fast at the grocery store, and talk very slowly to my students who then laugh at me afterwards. I mean, I'd laugh at me too. I do laugh at me. I'll be completely transparent about this. I am no expert when it comes to language learning. I am merely a student, a Padawan, if you will. My background is, well, my family's from Mexico, and I don't speak any Mexican, or Spanish, rather. But the good thing is I have friends who are experts. Please welcome my good friend, Disco VR.
FitPro VR invited me to speak? Hi fighters, this is Tetiana and I'm just trying to keep up with this guy. My Disco VR channel is about exploring all things VR, but outside of YouTube and social media, I'm actually an academic. I'm a PhD candidate and I write dissertation on using VR for language learning, and before, I was an English as a second language teacher. English is my second language too, so I know a thing or two about learning languages. I'd say one of the most effective ways of learning a language is contextual learning, and by that, I mean exposing yourself to authentic situations to use the language instead of isolating specific language aspects. For example, watching movies and TV shows with subtitles to learn contextual vocabulary is really effective, but having a list of words that you are trying to memorize, not so much. Having conversations with a real speaker or an AI agent in your target language, super effective. But learn vocabulary with flashcards and I guarantee you will not be able to use any of those words in a sentence. Another tip is continuous exposure. If you decide to learn a language, you commit. No buts. Schedule your day in a way that you spend at least 20 minutes a day practicing. It's like working out. And lastly, find someone to practice with. If you've got no motivation to learn, you will never make yourself learn, and usually you're not really motivated if you can't use the language. So find someone you can talk to in order to show off the things that you've learned, and I promise you that you will actually want to be better. Learning languages is fun. The first time you'll actually be able to build a sentence that native speakers will understand is a fantastic feeling, and they will really appreciate it. Cheers!
But language learning is a process. It does not happen overnight. So here's some insight into my daily study. I lift weights. I watch a lesson video. I lift weights again. I take a quiz. I lift weights. I do some flashcards. Then I make my son's lunch and practice speaking with the Mondly cell phone app. Then I go to school where most of my students are Chinese speakers and I ask them politely to speak Chinese with me.
我们在说普通话吧。
At lunchtime, I watch Chinese TV shows if I have time. Then in the evening, when my family and I are watching TV, I practice flashcards on my phone and miss most of the storyline of whatever's happening. Then at night before bed, my son and I practice vocab with drops. Then I wake up and I start the whole process all over again. So as you can see, language learning takes up a large portion of my downtime. And it has to, because I'm desperately missing one very important element that most language learners have. Immersion. Practicing Chinese in front of a laptop is not always the best way to do it. Which is why I was excited when I saw Mondly in VR. Now, I already use the Mondly cell phone app, so I just figured this would be a cool extension of something I'm already doing. For those of you who don't know what Mondly VR is, it's a language learning application available on the Quest 2 for $9.99, and it delivers immersive situations in which the user speaks a foreign language to a computer AI. They determine whether or not your pronunciation is good, and you get to practice speaking, which is something the app also does for you. This almost sounded too good to be true. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit more about Mandarin Chinese and just how difficult of a language it is to actually learn. See, in Chinese, there's actually two different types of ways to read it. There's simplified Chinese, where you read in character that matches a word. Every word has a different character. Literally, every word has its own character. Then you have pinyin. It's a more westernized phonetic version of Chinese, but you still have to learn the pronunciation for it. You're learning a new language, basically. There's also traditional Chinese characters, but that's even way more complicated, so I'm not even gonna get into that one. Oh, but wait, it gets more complicated. If you're a dumb American like me, you know that speaking English is relatively easy. We have lazy tongues and we don't really move our mouths a whole lot to speak this language. It's not like French where it's a lot of... Is that racist? I don't think so. Chinese is a more complicated tonal language where you'll have words that look identical, but the tone in which you say them changes the meaning completely. There's actually 5 tones in Chinese. For example, the word ma. In first tone, ma, it means mom. So if you were talking to your mother, you would say ma. Then we have ma, which is second tone, and it means marijuana or hemp. See how that could get confusing? Ma, ma. Then there's the rising falling tone, ma. That means horse. Then you have the falling tone, which is the fourth tone, ma. That means to scold or abuse somebody. Here's where it's gonna get even crazier. Then you have the neutral tone, where it's almost not even pronounced, ma. This is a question particle. It's like putting a question mark at the end of a sentence, ma. Why am I telling you this? Because Chinese is a complex language. It's hard to learn. So I was curious to see how the Mondly app could keep up with all these tones. Now, talking more about the gameplay, most of the responses are pretty canned. You can't just say whatever and hope it works. And some of the canned responses can get a little complex. On the beginner mode, the responses are all displayed for you. On intermediate, the responses are hidden, but you can see them if you push a button and peek at them. It's kind of like a lifeline. Then on advanced, they're nowhere to be found. So if you don't know what to say, you'll just be sitting there with your person you're talking to not understanding a word you're saying.
我很高兴见到您，您在这里度假吗？
谢谢你。
请重复。
So you're stuck there with this person saying,
请重复。
请重复。
and you're not going anywhere until you push the skip button, which makes you feel quite defeated. And the fact is, they don't tell you what you should have said afterwards. It's kind of frustrating. I'm no advanced speaker, but I don't think most advanced speakers would know exactly what to say here. It's just really hard without some prep work ahead of time. You would really have to go through beginner and intermediate to be ready for the advanced. This turns it into more of a memorization game than a learning tool. Now, I really like the environments and situations, but the game feels rushed and it feels unfinished. You yourself, you have no body. You are just a floating mass of brain energy with controllers in the way. Imagine trying to chat up this beautiful girl at the restaurant, but you're just an invisible person with controllers floating around. But one thing I do love is that there's little tiny stories that kind of set you up for the situation. Like, you're not just randomly at an airport. It gives you a scenario beforehand. You kind of make your way to the airport, or the taxi, or the restaurant. However, they are kind of lazily done. For example, here I am packing my suitcase, but I'm not using my hands to pack. I'm magically teleporting all of my clothes into the suitcase, which, you know, would be great in real life, but unfortunately, it kind of pulls you away from the immersion part. Again, are we magic or are we real life? We gotta decide here. One thing I do love about the conversations with the person I'm talking to is they talk fast. They talk like a native speaker, which is very important.
您的名字是什么？
叫 Ari。
A lot of apps you use, the speaker is talking very slow. And while that's helpful for a new learner, it's not how people actually talk in their native tongue. Like, look at me talking right now. This is how I talk.
But imagine I talked every video just like this. You would be bored and you would click off.
Don't click off, please. Don't click off. I need every view I can get. Right now in my language learning journey, I can understand about 20% of what each person is saying before I have to go back and kind of listen to them again and review. And there's, of course, words I don't understand, but I get a few of them and I can kind of piece the sentence together from what I hear. It's, again, like me at the fish market. The guy starts spouting off words, but I hear what I need to hear and I'm out of his hair. I found the chow mein noodles. Aisle 3 or 10. And then other smaller phrases I recognize almost immediately. The kind of greetings and hey, how are yous.
晚上好.
晚上好.
But I feel like, just like a lot of VR games, there's so much unharnessed potential here that needs someone with a creative brain to jump in and start turning screws and moving things around. It needs some feng shui up in here. There's a lot of opportunity for growth. I wish this was more like a game and less like a simulator. Like I wish I could go on a quest to find something or solve a mystery and learn the language along the way, as opposed to show up at a restaurant and try to order food from the waitress. Yes, simulated situations are nice, but scientifically speaking, that's not how we learn a language. This is one of the reasons I like watching TV shows in Chinese without the subtitles, because it forces you to kind of read the situation and pick up on the social and behavioral cues of each actor and kind of put it together in your brain. You start picking out words here and there, and you weren't even trying to. Real learning forces you to make connections. Think about anything you've ever learned in your life. How did you do it? Because you were interested in it, or you had to do it to survive. If a game came along and I could play and learn at the same time, oh my god. So right now, Mondly is merely a conversation simulator. You're not going to learn a whole lot about a new language here. I didn't touch any of the other languages because my brain is full enough with Chinese, and I think trying to speak Italian or Russian is going to just really mess me up. It's not something I'm interested in learning, so I have no real investment in it. Using this app alone, it's not going to do much. Using it in conjunction with other apps, I totally see the merit in having something like this. But if you think you're going to learn a new language from Mondly VR, think again. But if you're somebody that's studying a language and want just an extra oomph in that study to help you get more comfortable with different situations, by all means, Mondly is your go-to app. They have so many languages. Look, here, watch. All these languages. If you want to learn more about the other language apps that I use to learn a language, go ahead and check out the description. I'm going to put links to everything down there. I'm a big fan of Yoyo Chinese, however. If you're somebody who's interested in learning Mandarin Chinese, check out Yoyo Chinese, and you can actually do about a month's worth of it for free before you actually have to start paying for it, which is super dope because it lets you figure out if you're committed to learning Chinese or if it all just looks like Chinese. Was that a bad joke? It was a bad joke. I'm sorry. Do you speak a second language? How did you learn it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk to you more about language stuff. 我的名字是来自 Fit Pro VR 的 Ari，今天别忘了锻炼。